Eons ago, many Jotuns roamed the Skagerrak Sea. Now, all of them are gone, forgotten even by the sea itself. All except one. We call him Glenn. He was already old when the first settlers arrived here. A gentle titan searching for a place to belong. Years turned into centuries, and a small fishing village became the city of Gothenburg. Glenn helped us build our forts, dig our canals, and protect our borders. A reliable, comforting constant in an ever-changing world. Glenn the Giant. What a cool idea. He's part of a cute little passion project called Creatures of Gothenburg, which is a series of monsters and characters chopped into photos of a real city. Gothenburg, Sweden, I assume. They recently started a really neat looking webcomic by the same name. Great stuff, very charming, absolutely do go check them out. You can follow Creatures of Gothenburg on Instagram or find them on Webtoon. Now, I'm not gonna spoil it all here, I'll let you explore for yourself. The topic of this video, even though I'm very tempted to make this all about the garbage monster, will be Glenn the Giant. Why? Because in fantasy, giants are usually hostile, and a friendly giant casually hanging out with his human friends is not only a fun idea, but also pretty difficult to world build around. So in this video, we are gonna try and make Glenn work. And yes, we could just handwave pretty much all of the problems that come with Glenn by saying that he's magic and he's introduced as a Jotun, so we could get a lot of information on him from Norse folklore. But that's being boring. Let's assume we are talking about a non-magical giant with no specific background, so we are starting from zero. And let's look at his most obvious problem first, his size. First we have to make some assumptions. Glenn's size is a bit inconsistent in these photos and comics, but he seems to be about 5 to 6 truck trailers tall in this picture. So let's go with that. The maximum permitted height of a truck trailer in Europe is 4 meters, which makes him about 20 meters or 65-ish feet tall. That's about the size of a blue whale, so we can look up the according weight, which is 150 tons. Whew. Now, the conditions underwater are way better for huge creatures, so it makes complete sense that Glenn lives at the shore, or even under the sea. But what happens if he comes out to visit his human friends? Well, there's a reason no land-dwelling animal has ever been this tall and heavy, and that reason is gravity. And as we all have experienced at some point, gravity is a bitch. The largest land-living animals to ever have existed were about half of Glenn's weight, and they had to distribute their weight over 4 strong legs, of which they could probably only lift 1 at a time, standing safely on the other 3. To just casually walk, Glenn has to put all of his 150-ton weight on 1 leg and then let himself fall on the other one, amplifying this mass. He needs some very strong bones, huge stumpy legs and feet, and jogging is out of the question. Also, people would need to build special Glenn paths all throughout their city, just so he doesn't destroy their roads all the time. Because every step is the weight of a Boeing 787 landing on a single point the size of a dinner table. These paths should also be pretty wide, because you really don't want 150 tons of giant accidentally bumping into a building. In other words, the whole city would be adapted to Glenn. And since he's been around since the beginning, his special paths would run right through the city center. Maybe he even has a place to sit in the town square. That would be cool. He also seems to be coming from the water every day, so Gothenburg would probably have drawbridges, except for the ones that he can simply pass under. Glenn is a little heavy set. This is not only charming, but it also makes a lot of sense, whether it was intended or not. In fact, I'd make him even more pear-shaped because it lowers his center of mass, which is great for balance. Still, if he ever were to fall, he might just explode under his own weight like a huge water balloon made of flesh and blood. So if you definitely, positively 100% want to ruin everyone's day, you could just let this gentle giant fall hard and die tragically at the climax of your story. By being on land, Glenn is taking a huge risk just to be with his human friends. He must have a big heart. In fact, he must have a gigantic heart, because if a blue whale needs a heart the size of a Mini Cooper just to pump blood horizontally underwater, you can imagine what Glenn's heart would look like. Maybe he even has multiple hearts. Again, gravity is a big problem. But I'm not even done with his size yet. The biggest problem that comes with size is food supply. I mean, Glenn is not absurdly big. After all, whales can exist somehow, so let's just say he's a fisherman and catches whales and big fish or something. I'd say that's not too far-fetched. This also tells us about Glenn's level of technology, that he should be at least smart enough to craft a spear. Or he could be a filter feeder, but I don't like the look of that. That might explain why he's the last one of his kind though. Hans, get the Flammenwerfer! This brings me to the next topic, Glenn's relationship with humans. Or creatures, I guess. It seems to me like he just likes to be around them. He comes to the city every day, helps them out, and so on. I bet they are like pets to him. I'd be very interested in whether or not he speaks their language, because imagine what that would do. Not only could the people of Gothenburg learn from him, and vice versa, but he could basically sit in the middle of the city and speak to everyone in a huge radius, like a natural broadcasting system. Also, the inhabitants of Gothenburg could just tell him what to do, and if he's been around from the beginning, maybe they would have never invented cranes and stuff. In any case, Glenn is a huge boon to the city. He saves the people of Gothenburg so much labor, other cities and countries might get jealous. There could have been kidnapping attempts. Wars might have been fought over who gets to be his friend. On the other hand, in the early days of civilization, before long-range weapons, no one would have wanted to fight against Gothenburg because no one wants to fight a giant. So yeah, geopolitical repercussions. And throughout all of this, one question remains in my head. Why? Why does he want to be friends with humans and help them? If Glenn was not a Jotun, but a nondescript giant, this would also tie into the question why he's the only one of his kind. Could he be a literal god and that's why he's the only one? Maybe he even created the creatures of Gothenburg. Maybe because he was the only one, because he was lonely? Well, this theory we can already debunk because of the intro. So there was a whole race of giants. Where are they now? Did something even bigger wipe them all out? Is this even bigger thing still around? Maybe this will be the big bad evil in this story. Glenn could even be seeking refuge from it, and that's why he lives with these people, who have strength in numbers and advanced technology and weapons. On the other hand, he goes back to the sea every night, so maybe not. Or did humans hunt his kin to extinction? And if so, why is he friends with them now? Is he only helping them so they won't be afraid of him, because humans tend to destroy everything they are afraid of? So in the end, is Glenn helping them because of Stockholm Syndrome? Nah, wrong Swedish city. But still, there are many possibilities and unanswered questions, and that's what makes Glenn so mysterious and wonderful. We will probably never know the details of his story, and that's a good thing. If I was writing a story about Glenn, I would think it all through for myself, but not communicate any of it to the reader. I know, you want to show your audience all the good stuff you've come up with, but it would kill the mystery and leave the story an exposition dump. Sometimes it's just better not to explain how it all works, or else the magic might get lost and your audience will be JK Rowling on the floor laughing because your explanations aren't actually as smart as you thought. My advice is, show your work to your friends, not your audience. Unless a question comes up within the narrative and the answer is relevant, and it's plausible someone within that universe knows it, background details aren't needed other than to set the scene. So other than that, we mostly world build for ourselves and for the sake of the project. It is our curse. So far, Creatures of Gothenburg does exactly that. It tells the story from the perspective of someone to whom Glenn is a mystery. It answers the questions at hand and what people can immediately observe, and have observed throughout centuries, and leaves us in the dark about Glenn's origin and so on. I think it's great because this way we can be in awe and wonder and speculate for ourselves, maybe to the point where we'll be inspired to make a video about it. And there's probably more to find out about Glenn, but this video can't go on forever, so let's make this a challenge. If you made it this far, leave a comment with a random Glenn fact that you have come up with. Just one, so other people can join the game too. And who knows, maybe your idea will be canon soon, because the makers of the comic will probably watch this video. So what could you possibly come up with? Think about his private life in his offshore and possibly underwater home. And always think one step further. So pause the video right now, and while you're at it, please click the little hand icon and the big red button if you've been enjoying this video so far. It really helps. Now, if you're a writer or world builder yourself, don't fret. You don't need to think of every little thing like we're doing in this little game. Only what's relevant. How he lives might become relevant as soon as someone in the story manages to follow him home, which apparently has not been possible for the people of Gothenburg yet, although I can see no reason why, since they are just as technologically advanced as we are. So maybe we'll get an exciting story of some diver following Glenn home soon. If it's even physically possible and he doesn't go into some other dimension or whatever. And also there are some things you'll just have no reason to think about. Like reproduction in this case. Glenn seems to be the last one of his kind and it's irrelevant what's in his furry pants. In fact, even if there were other giants, the question would never arise unless you're writing an erotic fanfiction or something. Which will happen at some point, let's not fool ourselves here, for everything on the internet. But as a rule of thumb, think one step ahead. A question that won't come up that way often doesn't need to be answered. It will come up on Twitter though, but it's okay, even as the author, to say no one knows. Even Tolkien did this a lot, and he's one of the greatest world builders of our time. Some things just better remain a mystery, like giant furry dicks. Also, Glenn's fur is clearly a design choice made especially so you don't have to draw his schwang. It would probably make more sense if he was covered in fur from head to toe, or had no fur at all. But it's fine as long as you can explain it in retrospect. Like this. As we have established, falling is very dangerous for giants. They could break bones or maybe even pop open at the seams under their own weight. To avoid that, they live at the coast, always wading up to their waist in water, which means they get cold bums. Over time, they evolve to have furry legs and butts, keeping them warm. There we go. Doing it this way around often ends up being a little more suspicious to the reader and will kill someone's immersion, but most people won't even notice. Alright. That's all I got about Glenn and how to make big creatures work. If you enjoyed the video, please give a thumbs up and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. Comments also really push the algorithm, so just commenting a less than 3 would already help me out if you can't think of anything to say. Also, if you like this video, you'll probably enjoy these ones on screen right now. And if you want to support me, you could buy me a coffee and there's a Patreon link in the description. And last but not least, you can follow me on Instagram if you want. I don't post much, but I share funny stories with my friends every day. And with that, there's nothing left for me to say except thanks for watching, stay safe, have a wonderful day. Muffin out.